of proven reserves and 600 trillion scf of unproven gas reserves. I believe it is clear to us in this room that there are opportunities for our country to achieve energy security, drive industrialization, and stimulate economic growth in Nigeria. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rosario Osobase, and I have the privilege of managing and leading Tenaris' business portfolio in Nigeria. By way of introduction, Tenaris is a global pipe manufacturing company with global footprints around the world. In Nigeria, we have a $200 million investment out of Port Harcourt, where we thread and coat pipes. Today, we have a lineup of seasoned captains of industries, and I also have a great honor and privilege to welcome the distinguished panel already introduced. For the dynamics of this panel, we're going to have 5 opportunity presentations from each of them, starting with Chevron. So I'll call on Mr. Cosmos to go ahead and start the Chevron's opportunity presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, moderator. So as I presented earlier this morning, I did share with you that Chevron is doing a lot of work in the area of opportunities. Today with me, I have one of our project managers. His name is John Isuku. John, can you please help us run through those opportunities, and we'll take it from there. Please, John, over.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I will stand on existing protocols. I will be sharing with us opportunities within Chevron entities in Nigeria. First on the list I have here is the Agbami infill drilling program. This is in line with the Agbami development project, and it will run from 2023 to 2026. We'll have several wells that will be drilled, so this project is aimed at developing those wells to meet the field development program. And we have opportunities in the engineering space, manufacturing, assembly of subsea manifold in-country. We also have some aspects of the projects that have been accomplished. In-country assemblage of the subsea tree and controls, the in-country refurbishment of the subsea trees, installation, testing, and commissioning of the subsea equipment are all being done in-country. Next on the list, we have the Agbami Water Manifold C. It's the restoration of water injection on the wells that are associated with Manifold C. This is one of our opportunity within the Chevron entities and yet to be awarded. In all our projects, we are in compliance with the NCDB Act. We also have the Agbami FSO mooring system upgrade, where this is aimed at assuring the integrity of our mooring facility in the deep water space. Most of these activities will be done by Nigerian contractors and in-country. Next on the list is the Escravos. This is now a JV area, the Escravos gas plant degassing unit. It is aimed at reducing our carbon footprint and also improve gas monetization in Nigeria. The design is being done in-country by an indigenous engineering firm, and the long lead items will be procured by Nigerian-owned companies. Now I want us to look at some of the projects that are in flight. Why the ES was speaking earlier today, he displayed some of the Chevron projects that were considered as future projects in the last edition of this forum. And I'm glad to say that two of those projects, the Escravos Export System project is completed and commissioned, as well as the OCAN GGCP debottlenecking project that's also been completed. One of the biggest projects we have right now is the Project Panther Infill Development Project. This aims at addressing the decline, production decline, and also increase production both in the oil and gas area. So we have the rigs, we have one in country and one will be in the next few weeks. The project we've already secured funding for, over $1 billion funding on this project, and creating opportunities for lots of indigenous players. The Panther project aims to drill 37 infill wells that will add to the oil and gas facilities in Chevron, Nigeria. On the list, we also have the Sonam gas pipeline sectional replacement. This is in flight. It's being handled basically by indigenous contractors. We have the diving support group. We have the flow line repair, and all aspects is being managed by indigenous players in the industry. We have the DB North pipeline replacement. This is aimed to improve the integrity of our pipeline within the onshore space, and we have this coming up this year, and we have lots of opportunities for our indigenous contractors, including our local community contractors, are involved in this project. So we have this in flight, and we have commenced initial work on this project, and it's a great opportunity for as many that are available to play in this space. We also have recently completed projects, the underwater inspection in lieu of dry dock of the Agbami FPSO and the buoy. This was recently completed 100% by local players, Nigerian-owned companies. And finally, we have the ATR project, the Autotema system, the Autotema reformer system. This is a project in the Escravos gas to liquid facility in Escravos, where we had a pit stop to repair some of the fish-trap systems. So these are some of the projects, both in flight, future projects, and ongoing projects that we have in the Chevron entities in Nigeria. I'll pause here. Thank you.
Very good time management. Thank you so much, Mr. John. It's very interesting to hear the list of projects, almost an endless list. I had significantly two major projects and even more around Escravos. I had Agbami Infill Development between 2023 and 2026. It will be good to understand the dimension of this development. I also heard you mention the Project Panther. This is a very good success story that Chevron would need to share with the rest of us to see, how we can strengthen other opportunities in the pipeline as well. I will come back to Chevron at the question round, but just to manage the time, we'll go ahead now and invite Bala for his own opportunity presentation.
Thank you. Maybe just watch this video first, then we'll talk.
6 million barrels of crude oil per day.
NNPC, energy for today, energy for tomorrow.
Nigeria currently produces approximately 1.6 million barrels of crude oil per day. This wasn't always the case, especially in 2022, when oil production dropped to approximately 1 million barrels of crude oil per day, owing to the shutdown of operations at various terminals to curb crude oil theft. Over the years, oil theft was caused and exacerbated by vandalism, pipelines transversing through difficult terrains, monitoring and surveillance carried out in silos. NNPC Limited sought and obtained presidential approval to rally stakeholders to implement a holistic hydrocarbon infrastructure security architecture to tackle crude oil theft and vandalism of oil and gas assets. Determined to reverse the trend, NNPC Limited, backed by the support and approval of the federal government, launched an industry-wide security collaboration in 2022. This comprises government security and intelligence agencies supported by private security contractors drawn from the host communities with vast knowledge of the terrains and the communities. The move to curb oil theft was further strengthened with the launch and operation of NNPC Limited's Command and Control Center, where security operations are monitored and coordinated. The center leverages state-of-the-art technology to detect illegal activities and escalates to the front line for swift response in a timely, cost-efficient, and effective manner. In the past 1 year, the collaboration has discovered and destroyed approximately 3,010 illegal refineries, discovered and removed approximately 2,643 illegal connections. Since inception, approximately 938,000 barrels of stolen crude oil, 61.1 million liters of diesel, over 641,000 liters of petrol, and 1.1 million liters of kerosene have also been seized and confiscated. Over 7,000 infractions have been reported till date. Along the western, central, and eastern corridors, a total of 4,204 infractions were reported between August to December 2022, while 3,444 infractions have been reported between January 2023 till date. This slide represents the geographical locations of removed illegal refineries and illegal connections as at May 5, 2023. The spotted dots show illegal connections, the red dots represent illegal refineries, and the blue represent cases of vandalism, theft, destruction of boats, and host community crisis. A similar impact is being recorded in gas production. The outage of major trunk lines severely impacted gas production and evacuation, depriving gas power plants and gas-based industries of feedstock for operations. So far, we have recorded tremendous recovery of gas volumes. The success recorded so far is attributed to the collaborative efforts of government security agencies in collaboration with private security contractors along the western, central, and eastern corridors. As the war on crude oil theft continues, NNPC Limited is poised to change the narrative for the better by boosting Nigeria's oil production capacity and curbing oil theft for good.
NNPC, energy for today, energy for tomorrow.
Let me stand on all established protocol with two exceptions. Number one is to recognize His Excellency, the Governor of Bayelsa State, one of our partners in creating an enabling environment in our oil and gas operational zones, represented heavily by my friend and brother, who also has responsibility in trying to administer all the resources across this state. The second one that I will never, ever, always forget, irrespective of standing on established protocol, is someone I call a friend, a brother, but also a mentor, Simbi Obote. Simbi and I come a long way. When I started this industry, I have to start learning the definition of what is CAPEX, what is OPEX from him. So to whatever you hear me saying, the bad one is not the one that he taught me. But the good one I learned from him. With that in mind, I also like to say a bit of a disclaimer. The voice you are hearing is that of Balaunti. But the person standing is Engineer Tambomie Adoke, the Executive Vice President upstream. He would have been here, but several exigencies of duties. We couldn't have all our 2 EBPs with 1 GCO. We think it's an overload, especially when other activities needed to be done. So the GCO, together with my boss, Engineer Abdul Kabir, the head of our gas businesses and power, they are all here. And so the wrong thing that you hear again, let me adopt what His Excellency said. Please, if you hear anything you don't like, don't take me to court, because I'm not a lecturer. So having said that, I think opportunity fair. Well, first, I think we have to understand the opportunity. The opportunities arise from the market we operate. And when you look at market, essentially market have needs. Those needs would crystallize into demand. And when you have demand, that demand needs to be met. The energy market, therefore, demands resources. And the resource that you have, I think you have it throughout this morning, and she just recapped it, 37 billion barrels of oil, liquid, over 260 CF of gas, infrastructure, and everything that you can think we have. We have the resource. But the resource in itself does not translate to energy. What translates to energy is to produce those energy. And when you produce the energy, you need certain input, key of which is investment. You need investment to be able to produce. And when you have investment, it requires capital, it requires finance. And ultimately, finance go back to market, and from the market, we get the finance. And that's why it's important to look at the global finance market. The global finance market today is a battle between 2 extreme players. Those who are completely for energy transition and those who are against. I wouldn't call it against, those who are for energy security. So the battle is, what are you going to prioritize as countries? And I think the general thinking is that we know that the trilemma of energy require that you make energy available, acceptable, accessible, and in an accessible manner. To be able to do that, you certainly need to know what you want to do. And that is what we see across the globe. We see so many outrages because America has awarded license for more and more drilling. We've seen Germany bringing down wind power and then giving room for coal exploitation. And with that in mind, it's therefore clear, irrespective of what part of the world you are, developing or undeveloped, energy security is key, because energy security is key to all forms of nation security. And that's why it's very important that we prioritize that. And to be able to prioritize that, we need to ensure that there's adequate investment that will support that. What we have seen over the last couple of years was stifling capital for fossil fuel investment. We've seen the activists, all of them are saying no more capital for investment, and therefore the oil companies were left alone to figure out what they're going to do to run their business. And what we have seen over time is the fact that there's a widening gap between demand and supply, but most importantly, on a trajectory of the future, you see a continued decline of what we are doing in terms of investment. OPEC, for which Nigeria is a member, has estimated that we need at least $11 trillion for CapEx to be able to catch up with demand growth. And we've seen that demand growing post-COVID. And if opportunities need to be x-rayed, it's important that we see where we are seated as a country. And what we have seen significantly is the fact that over the last couple of months or so, our production has regained. And what led to that regain, I think we just saw the video. At the beginning of 2020, there were about 3 issues that confronted the industry. Number one is the uncertainty of our physical system. At that time, we were what we call PIV. And number 2 is a high-cost environment. And number 3, there are security challenges. You heard from the GCO Malam Melekari, who said that under that circumstance, there's nobody that is ready to invest money and produce into the hand of other people who has not contributed. And to be able to address that, we carry out certain things. Number one, as a nation, we migrated from the so-called PIB that we've been there for over 2 decades to PIA. And the benefit of the PIA we'll see in the next few minutes, and that also presents some compelling opportunities. But beyond the PIB converted to PIA, we also confronted the security situation head-on. The video spoke to what we have done, and that is due to the collaboration between government security agencies, the industry, and the regulators, as well as, most importantly, the communities. We also take the issue of cost head-on through our upstream cost optimization program, for which I'm glad to say Cosmos has been a key actor in that. The combination of that gives us the leverage that if we can resolve this issue, then we will solve the problem that we have seen. Inability to attract investment, inability to produce maximally. The consequence of that, we are unable to pay our cash calls, and ultimately, we are not even able to give anything back to the community, and we are not able to do what we are supposed to do. And we have reversed that, and that reversal is what brought us to where we are. You heard from the GCO today that we are doing on the average of 1.6 million barrels of production, and that 1.6 million barrels of production is just the beginning. What we have seen basically is with the exiting of the PIB to PIA, a lot of things happen, one of which is NNPC Limited. What that means is that government is relieved of cash call and the responsibility to come back to NNPC. And the benefit of that is that I would like to say, and I've been confronted by Chairman Osagi, of course Obi cannot speak, Cosmos cannot speak, that as of today, NNPC is not owing anybody cash call. We are paying all the cash calls. We're up to date, up to the month of April, which probably before I get back to Abuja, it will hit people's account. And that wouldn't have been possible without the production recovery. But most importantly today, we have gotten what we consider a license for us to continue to do what we need to do. And that is to say, to look at what is our trajectory of growth. 1.6 is not what we are expected to do. The minimum is our survival level should be our budget number. Our budget number is 1.8 million barrels per day. But this industry knows that currently we have installation that can produce above 2 million barrels. But we believe we can move to 1.8 quickly by June, July. And then at that 1.8, we start our consolidation phase. Consolidation is to go above the budget and be able to produce 2 million barrels. Once we do 2 million barrels, for us to be able to grow, we need some new oil. And you see some of the FIDs that has been spoken. All the opportunities that you're going to hear or you have heard from Chevron are all being driven and enabled by NNPC as a concessionaire or NNPC as a partner. And target is for us. We believe that in a 5 to 7 years horizon from 2024, we should be able to hit 3 million barrels. We have identified projects, we have identified activities, and we have identified what needed to be done. It is this bucket and portfolio of projects to be FID'd and activities that are there that has started showing sign. And there's no better sign to see than what we consider the barometer of measuring activities in the industry. And that barometer is our NIPEX portal, where tenders are being published. Hitherto, in a month, you hardly see 2 to 5 tenders. Today, we've seen a number of tenders coming very quickly. That means there's so much activity that is happening. And the number of tenders that are coming clearly indicate a compelling opportunities. And those opportunities is what we are going to be talking about. And let me also use this opportunity because I know even though he's not on the podium, he has confronted me, that last year I did mention that we're going to FID some projects. And not only FID some projects, I say some projects are going to be completed. I'm glad to say, Obi will confirm, Ekike has come and gone, and by the grace of God, we are achieving much more what we expect. One of the most successful projects in recent time. And I think we should clap for Total. I've also said earlier when I was talking as a staff of Shell, yes, as a staff of Shell, NNPC owns 55%, so I have the right to talk. And I say what we have tried to do as men, we couldn't succeed. A woman come and did it better. We've condemned Bonga to 19,000, Today, Bonga is doing 130,000, courtesy of the MD and the lady that's in there. So I think all the women in the house, Ogasimbi said that he's for women in energy. And I asked him that sometimes English is difficult. Is he talking about women in energy or women with energy? But I think the combination. My chiefs are, all the projects that we say we FID except one that has spilled over. And we have taken it back into where we're saying. We are looking at Ubieta, we are looking at Ntoki, we are looking at Bonga, we are looking at Bonga Southwest Afaro, Bonga North, and then we're also looking at Agbami. You heard about the Agbami gas leak, where we're going to do the gas treatment. Currently, we are talking about the unitization and taking FID. We hope to take this FID this year of our Lord 2023 to 2024. When this FID is taken, everybody that is service provider here, real service provider, not middlemen and women, should be ready to confront the opportunity. Because there's a difference between capacity and there's difference from middlemen and women. And we are ready to work with NCDMB as NNPC with our partners to ensure we build in-country capacity, real capacity, so that we can remove the portfolio rent seekers and focus on building truly a capable domestication of our infrastructure. Thank you very much.
It's always a delight to hear you speak, Bala. You've said a lot of things. You've talked about, I liked your point on the global finance markets and a battle between energy transition and energy security. And I also took notes on your point on beginning of 2020 when the industry was bedeviled with uncertainty in the fiscals, high costs, and security. And how you have drummed down that with the hydrocarbon security infrastructure that has been put in place, we've been able to put some level of control with, some work still to be done. I also like some of the projects that you've highlighted, which strengthens my comment earlier on the opportunities that amass for us in the industry. And I'll leave it here for now and come back to you later on in the question and answer round. But for now, I would go straight to the country chair of Shell Nigeria and call him to make his opportunity presentation. Osage, please.
Thank you, Rosario. I was conferring with Bala on this cash call thing. But he has given me the assurances that today is the day, so well done. But a lot of credit indeed to Bala, since NPCL came to be, that we are seeing quite some dramatic improvements in that area. Thank you very much. With women in energy, I was whispering to Eloho that I'm becoming quite old for these things now, so she should be getting ready. She should be the one on these panels now because she's doing us so proud, and she'll be taking most of the credit for some of the improvements we are seeing. So I will cover the Shell side, as you heard the ES talked about earlier. His compendium has quite a few of our projects. Anytime, even me as a country chair, when I look at just the funnel of projects we have across our business, it's outstanding. It's really astounding. It just goes to the point about how resource-rich our country is and what we should all be doing collectively to actually realize it. It's actually quite important. So I could have put a funnel that will have 20, 25 projects. But what I thought I should do in this session is actually to highlight the ones that are actually the multi-billion-dollar projects that would have underneath it several sub-projects that all of us in the room can indeed connect to. So the essence of this is just to see how very rich our portfolio is, and by implication, how rich the portfolio of our country is as far as hydrocarbons are concerned. So I would, is somebody running the slides? Okay, so the place to start is to just remind everyone, not that you have been short of it since GCO spoke and Bala now, that the SPDC JV, we are the operator, but we have essentially four JV partners. NNPC at 55%, ourselves at 30%, Total Energies at 10%, and NOGOF at 5%. And for SNEPCO, SPDC NIMS also the concessionaire. We are 55% owners. ESSO, as a Exxon affiliate, is 20%, and ENI 12.5%, and Total Energies. So when I speak of the JV, I speak of SNEPCO, I speak for these entities as the operator. If I start with the gas projects, as we say, gas is essentially the major catalyst, not just for revenues in terms of export gas, but also catalyzing our economy. In that space, we have a projected spend over the next 6-7 years of some $3 billion, looking to deliver 1 BCF of gas through these projects. And some of the projects you will recognize, Asanot in Imo State, which is in flight, Okpokunu, projects like Obele, I hope you can read them, Obele Rumuekbe, and very importantly, Brass Fertilizer, which is to be located here in Bayelsa State, probably one of the most important projects in the medium term for this country, where the SPDC JV is looking to supply the feedstock gas. A lot is involved in it, over 20 wells, some 50 kilometers of line pipes and flow lines, and facilities including manifolds, skids, and the such. In addition, looking to feed and detailed design, it was good to see some of the companies showcasing earlier. Allocation, meters, fabrication, so all the shebang there. On the export gas side, another 3 to 4 billion projected spend in capex terms. Again, another 1 billion standard cubic feet of gas a day of new gas over the next 3 to 4 years. First, to just keep trains 1 to 6, which is our current capacity, to keep it full. And you have projects there, 5 of them essentially already in execution. You've heard them mentioned, was in Bala's slide. 1 or 2 of them were in Bala's slide. The Enwe, also around here in Bayelsa, some really, really exceptionally producing wells there. Barandoda Compression, GNC, Baran Single Wells, and Uzu. These are projects I'm sure several in the rooms will be aware of. We also have 7 or so projects in development. Baranti 7, Kolo Creek, and Apu. Interestingly, many of these projects are actually located here in Bayelsa State. Very importantly, as we've heard severally, Train 7 is under construction. We still need to do a lot of work in terms of getting the feedstock gas. So you've heard of 2-3 key projects there, HA, and HP. I believe the ES in this presentation made mention of it. Again, some $6 billion of potential investment opportunity there with these key projects and the projects underpinning them. 0.7 BCF of gas. So when we talk gas, you just see what the opportunities from one company, just one of the, albeit one of the major companies, you just realize that we are a resource-rich country. We just need to get our hands and get all our shoulders behind it and essentially execute. So From what I've roughly put here, you're looking about $12 to $13 billion of capex in the gas space that we can enable in the SPDC JV only. So let me quickly then turn to deep water, and Ella will be here with you over the next couple of days. So if you need deeper conversations, she'll be available to discuss it. Again, looking to spend some $6 billion plus of capex over the next 10 years or so. Peak crude oil production, 370,000 barrels. One that is not talked about a lot, but when you heard GCU talk about the pipeline infrastructure to Morocco, one of the projects we are looking at that underpins that is the Wandero project. 90 CF of gas sitting in there, just one resource base, one field. So it's really unitized that it is, but 90 CF. So we're looking at over 40 potential subsea wells we are looking at there. Bonga North we've talked about, Bonga Southwest, I've just mentioned Wandero. Facilities, subsea manifolds, skids, just like I said previously, huge job opportunities there, over 1,000. Feed, detailed designs, allocation and fiscal methods as well, compressors, dehydration units, fabrication, structural steel fabrications, pressure vessels, and the whole lot. So because NCDMB does a lot of compilation of all of this, I think many of these projects in the pipeline will find a way to feed it into the structure. But these are projects that are underpinned by resource in the ground. The reality of it, as we heard the GCU say earlier, is that they can just remain potential projects if we don't do the needful. We need to continuously push our country as an investment case. ES and I, we exchanged quite a few text messages here and there once we see FIDs rolling out in other climes and say, what do we do essentially to unlock the FIDs? As we always say, I think that was also one of the mantras of Simbi in his early days, that if there are no projects, then there is really no local content. You need to get the projects to drive. So what do we really need to do to ensure that we unlock many of these projects? Bala has spoken very eloquently about all the efforts to just secure even what you produce today. The confidence to invest in the future is when you can actually conclusively say what you produce today gets to the tank. So if 50, 60% of what you produce gets stolen along the way, nobody has the incentive to essentially invest. So overcoming these operational challenges, in particular with respect to crude theft, we are getting there, we are winning the battle. We are not quite out of the woods yet, but significant progress over the last year. But this is a battle we must win. Things like legacy debts, you heard about the cash call issue. I think we are overcoming that. That essentially makes a lot of difference. Sanctity of contracts, hopefully with the PIB, now a PIA, I think, and all the implementation details that our regulators, in particular Dr. Ofuigbu, has articulated very strongly. I think that really would help. Local content, we heard ES talk a bit earlier about continue to high grade what we do. Ultimately, this is our future as a country, but we have to make our projects competitive, and making our projects competitive means that the upskilling and the price competitivity must actually work. So an area of constant focus. PIA has come, it's in flight, and thanks for all the regulations that are being rolled out with consultations, as Kelechi mentioned earlier. But we have one particular element that we still have not cracked. That's fiscals for dry gas and deep water. I'm glad that Dr. Ofuigbu is in the room, because essentially he singularly holds the accountability to drive the government leadership in essentially finding that right sweet spot of getting the right fiscals in place to enable us unlock dry gas and to some extent the deep water gas, e.g. the 1.0 I just talked about earlier. It's crucially important because probably half, if not more than half, of our potential in gas still lies in dry gas. And if it's dry, it doesn't have condensate or liquids to go with it, our current fiscals do not support it. It's not a new statement. At the point of the PIB, this was one of the strongest points of our advocacy. We decided at the point to pack it so that PIA can progress, so that we can then come back to it. So it's incumbent on us now, industry, regulators, government, to ensure that we essentially do it. The final point is partner alignment. I have to give a lot of credit to NINS under Bala. We do spend a lot of time, and not just us in Shell, but I think I can almost speak for the rest of the industry that there's a lot of airtime for us to discuss our issues. But it's not just with our key partner, our major partner, it's also sometimes amongst us as parties in the ventures, either in the JV or in deep water, to ensure that we are completely aligned, both in technical terms and commercial terms, so that we can actually achieve these FIDs. So there is a lot in the horizon. I remain quite proud of our resource base, not just as Shell, but in this country. It's then incumbent on us, regulators, NCDMB as regulator, NUPRC, and our key partners in NNPC, and those of us who are playing in the industry to just get the energy behind it so that we can unlock this tremendous potential. So thank you. Let me leave it here.
Thank you so much, Osage. I got out a lot from your presentation. I was going to ask you a lot of gas-related projects, but it seems you already did justice to the topic or, in general. And it's clear that there's a rich portfolio. And for Shell Nigeria, multi-billion dollars of projects lined up till 2030. I like the point on the gas to feed LNG Train 7, because I recall from the just concluded Nigerian International Energy Summit, where Dr. Philip was mentioning that the Train 7 is on course, but they need the gas. So it's interesting to see that Shell is also leading the charge on gas and trying to feed not just Train 1 to 6, but Train 7 as well. And these are multi-billion-dollar projects that present opportunities for all of us in the room. I also like your point on the deep water. It's good to note that the deep water is progressing amidst, some enablers still in view. But with 40 subsea wells planned between Bonga North, Bonga Southwest, and Nwadoro, I think it's an interesting opportunity in the pipeline to watch out for. It would be good in the later stage, maybe if I come back to you later to explain what the timelines are, especially for the Bonga Southwest, which seems to be the biggest in the portfolio. For the enablers, you've highlighted the investment case for Nigeria. You've also highlighted the need to upskill local content and favorable fiscals, as well as partner alignments, which I think the dynamics in the room today reveals that this is continuously being strengthened, and you're doing a good job with your partners, in this alignment basis. So thank you for sharing that. I'll come back to you in the question and answer round. But for now, I'll go straight to Total Energies E&P. Congratulations on your Ekike project. I think that was tremendous. And I invite you at this stage to take on your opportunity presentation. Mr. Obi Ibemba is the Executive Director of JV Assets for Total Energies in Nigeria.
Thank you so much. I would like to also take advantage of the protocols that have already been established today. I appreciate the privilege to speak to you on behalf of Total Energies E&P Nigeria Limited and also Total Upstream Nigeria Limited. So we have two upstream companies in Nigeria. That's the Total E&P managing the JV assets with NNPC and the NNPC Limited. And then we have the Total Upstream, Total Energies Upstream Nigeria Limited managing the deepwater assets. Today I'm going to talk to you briefly on the opportunities we see in Total Energies in Nigeria. I'm going to give a general overview about what we are doing in the deepwater, in the JV, and then I go straight, narrow down to one project, the Ubeta project, which is in our onshore block, OML 58. I'll give some more details in that. Generally speaking, in the deep water area today, we have the Pirowei project that we started just before the COVID. The FEED started before the COVID, but we suspended it because of COVID. And after COVID, we had license renewal discussions for that block of OML 130. Those have just been resolved, and we are about continuing the FEED for that project. It's a deep water project, and we expect that once the FEED is finished, we should be able to have the CFT, the call for tender, and we should be able to launch a project as required. On the JV side, today, on the offshore side, we have an exploration activity program that is going on today in the greater Ofon area. So Ofon is a huge, I would say, field that we had an extension project that was finished in 2016, and we have still a lot of resources around that area. So we are maximizing the recovery of those resources by undertaking some exploration projects. So we are drilling one well as we speak, and we expect to drill a second one this year. And if those discoveries are successful, we intend to launch projects to tie back to the Ofon complex as quickly as possible. While on the onshore side, we have the Ubeta project that I'll be talking about today. So if we just go through the Ubeta project. So let me zoom into the Ubeta project. Yes, so Ubeta project, as you can see, is a very simple project. Is a field that was discovered in the 1970s, I will tell you, and we've not been able to develop it. That's the last undiscovered, I would say, block undeveloped discovery in that block of OML 58. So it's gas condensate. I think we can stay here. So it's a gas condensate field. We're going to develop, it's going to be comprised of 6 wells that we're going to drill there. And we're going to produce and export about 10 million standard cubic meters of gas per day. That's about 350 million SCOF per day. And it's going to service both the NLNG and some parts could go to the domestic market. We have 3 packages, principally. It's going to be a well slot, okay, a well pad. And we're going to have about a reserved area that we're going to acquire, about 20 hectares. And we're going to have the well pad there. And then you're going to have an 11-kilometer pipeline that will go to Obite Treatment Center. Obite is already existing. That's our main onshore gas treatment center. Today, the capacity there is about 16 million standard cubic meter per day. So we're going to tie this Ubeta development, this 350 and export through Obite. We're looking at also some brownfield modification at the Obite Treatment Center to be able to receive this. So we're looking at, currently the feed is ongoing, and we're looking at FID soon. I'll show you the schedule. But I want to highlight one key component of the project, which is sustainability aspect. So I've had a lot of talks here today about energy transition, about what we need to do to reduce carbon. I also had NUPROs talk about that. That's very critical. So we need to invest and focus on, low carbon energy, and gas represents that today. And also we're going to make sure that the suppliers, the partners, the contractors that we work to also embrace our climate and sustainability principles. We're going to invest in human capital development. We're going to take care of biodiversity, circular economy, trying to make sure that we reuse a lot of materials. Also, our waste, we'll recycle them. We're going to make sure that the local communities, that the prosperity that we create will be sustainable prosperity. We know that the PIA has established the HCDT, but we will not also take that for granted, that that will solve all the problems. We'll have to embark on a very, I would say, strategic and structured community empowerment programs by making sure that the community members are involved in this project. So what are the opportunities we see today in this project? So if we see that from the engineering already, we have Nigerian company doing the engineering, that's NETCO. So we're going to also have a lot of engineering, Nigerian companies doing the procurement. I would say 100% procurement, and the fabrication, installation, and including the employment and training opportunities that will be available. And the status today is that we have already the site survey completed, basic engineering completed. We have the detailed engineering ongoing with NETCO in Lagos, and the preparation for the call for tenders are almost completed. So in the next few weeks, I would say, we should have the adverts in the newspapers as we speak, and the site preparation activities will commence subsequently. And in terms of more precision, I would say that we are looking at FID by beginning of next year. That's in a couple of months. So we're looking at the first quarter 2024. And in terms of first gas, we're looking at end of 2026. And I think it will be a good time also to support the NLNG Train 7 that will be coming on stream. So the Nigerian content opportunities we see are the following. So in detailed engineering, I already said that that's already ongoing in Lagos with NETCO. So, but we believe also that all the other aspects of procurement, the line pipe coating, on the installation of the laying of the pipes, and the well pads, commissioning, construction, and all the other training activities, we see huge opportunities and potential for local participation. So it's not just to make it clear, it's not a big project, it's an onshore project. So it's 350 million scope, yes, but we are just building a pipeline, 11 kilometer, tying into an existing facility. You have a well pad, but the opportunities still exist. So I think that's where I will stop. But to round up, I want to just compliment what Osagi and the Bala have said. I think in the industry today, we see a lot of, I would say, actions and movement towards addressing a lot of the enablers that we have identified. And one of them, I mean, Bala has highlighted it. This project I just mentioned now is an onshore project. There is condensate in it. If you don't have a sustainable way to evacuate the liquid that is associated, the condensate, you will not be able to, export the gas. So the aspect of securing the pipelines and making the pipelines availability is very crucial, and we appreciate the effort the NNPC is making in that aspect. I will also want to comment on the addressing legacy issues. Like for us, we have invested a lot in the last couple of years. A GINA project is one of them, very huge, came on stream in 2019, producing very well. We finished OFOM projects, we finished Ikike, and some of these projects in the past, we had a mechanism of carry, MCA, so we had a lot of issues, and I want to say under the leadership of Bala, we've been able to clear a lot of those legacy issues, and we have been able to recognize all those costs, and they have been treated. I think it's a big enabler. And I will also say that there's been, with the NNPC Limited now, I can confirm that since this year, we see that in terms of cash call payments, we've seen tremendous improvement. And we want to ask that that continues, and because it's a big, big enabler to allow the investors to invest, as required. And I also want to commend NUPRC for what they've done on the PIA. We know that there's been a lot of clarification, a lot of discussions, a lot of engagements. We want to encourage you to still keep listening, because there are a lot of things we did not understand in the industry, and now they are being clarified, and we are all making progress. The Host Communities Trust Fund, I had the commissioner mention that it's not an easy subject, but we are all working on it to get it operationalized. So thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you, Obi. It seems that Total is walking the talk. Total Energies is walking the talk in Nigeria, with mentioning projects, identifying projects, and going ahead to complete the project. So well done for that. You've mentioned a couple of points, and you've highlighted a couple of opportunities as well. Ubeta stands out from your presentation with 6 wells, 11 kilometers of pipeline. Please remember to come to the best coating facility in the country when you are ready to coat your pipes. Okay, I also like the point on your point on your sustainability roadmap. Total Energies also seems to be leading the pack on low carbon energy in Nigeria. And you have identified gas as one of the representative resources that we need to drive this. I like the point that you put people in the center of it, people's well-being in the center of your operations, and the care for the environment, and creating shared values for all stakeholders, including the community. That's very commendable. I'll come back to you on Preoway, because I think in the last opportunity presentation 2 years ago, I think that was COVID, so we had this virtually. You had identified that as one of the projects that will take FID in 2023. So it would be good to understand where you are. I know you have mentioned that FEED is ongoing, some licensing considerations with your partners, but it would be good to understand what the outlook for that project is, and in terms of the timelines that you expect to be able to resolve this as well. We will go ahead, last but not the least, to our representative from NEPL, Ismail Mohammed, who is the Executive Director of NEPL and in charge of the Central Technical Division. Please, can you project your opportunities for us? Thank you.
Well, before I start, I would like to still remain on the established protocol However, I would like to acknowledge the presence of my principals, my GCO, my EVP. Of course, prominent is the governor of Bayelsa State, who is our chief host, ably being coordinated by Engineer Simbi Wabote through this forum, and of course, building on the legacy left by Chief N.S. Wapa and co. And on that note, I would like to say, good afternoon all. I'm wearing the garb of my MD, Mr. Alizara, who is unavoidably absent, and representing him, so taking a tour from my principal and of course, the Honorable Commissioner. The good is from my MD, the bad lies on my head. So on this, I would like to say, somebody asked me, why don't we hear much about you? I say, well, it's very simple. When you see a Ferrari roaring, it's the exhaust you are hearing. The crankshaft is inside working. NEPL, which was NPDC before, now is called NEPL, based on the PIA, under the able leadership of Malam Mele Kolo Kari, and of course, the Honorable Minister, State Minister of Petroleum, who is, sorry, let me use yours, an homonile of this place. Yeah. So, NEPL, we have come a long way. Most people don't hear much about us, just as I said, we don't make a lot of noise. But we started with just barely 900 barrels of oil. But today, we are making hundreds of thousands of barrels of oil. And our target this year alone is 300,000 barrels per day. As we go ahead to meet our set objectives, annually we make our budget provisions and work programs. And this fear gives us the opportunity to present ourselves and show you the opportunities available for you to come and be with us, to enable us to deliver on our mandate and to touch your lives in many positive ways while we enrich the pockets of our shareholders and other stakeholders. Now, NEPL, we have a large footprint, which people don't know. We have over 30 OMLs and OPLs. We are within the the South-South region, the Niger Delta in particular. We are in rivers, cross rivers. We are in rivers, we are in Akwa Ibom, we are in Edo, which is where our headquarters is. And you can see our intention, which we want to be, is to be the leading E&P company with significant global presence. Global presence, let me just tell you that we are in Equatorial Guinea before, and we'll continue to spread around. And in this, you can see we have 100% ownership in some of the oil mills, 11, 13. We have 65, 88, 68, 86, 88. We have the 119, 111. All those ones are 100% concession being operated by NEPL. While others, we have JV partnerships. And indeed, we have a large drive base. The drive base we have We have over 20 trillion standard cubic feet of gas as a main driver in terms of gas molecules. And we have over 6 billion barrels of oil in our kitty. And this calls for collaboration between us and our Nigerian content under the platform of the NCDMB. So for that, I would like to tell you most of the opportunities with what we have. Let me start with the gas. The gas, currently we have a large gas facility in Ologbo, Edo State. We are processing over 200 million standard cubic feet of gas, and we inject into the national grid. We also have customers. Indeed, it's in this regard that Dangote saw the opportunity in us. We supply gas to the fertilizer plant, and we are also building a NAC plant as a tolling gate, process Dangote's gas coming in collaboration with Shell. And this is being done solely by NEPL with a Nigerian content under the company called LONEP. And the Ologbo process facility we was constructed from scratch to completion, right from the conduit as from the battery limit of the processing plant, from the flow stations, down to the scale bridge before it goes to our customer, was done by Network Oil and Gas, 100% Nigerian content. And this, they were able to participate and to deliver those projects because the Nigerian Content Development Monitoring Board was able to create this opportunity, create the platform for them to participate. So this is for the gas. We also have opportunities coming on in OML 11. Of course, if you go to Akwa Ibom, you will see us there. What we do in terms of the gas, customers come to us, we liaise in collaboration with all our sister companies, NGMC, under the able leadership of our EVP here too. And this we are able to deliver with proper guidance and stewardship in collaboration with NWIMS, who have been our senior partner for long. Now, what I'm trying to say is, this is for the gas facilities. One revelation I would like to make here today is the Seplat JV you have been hearing of. We control 55%, and we give them the opportunity. We've laid the foundation, and we continue to be with them. Today, they are one of the major gas producers through the Oben North. At Oben, supplying Geregu, Obajana, Dangote, and then the Ajakuta axis. These are the gas molecules. We have OML42, which has large gas footprint. We have partners like ND Western, Shoreline, First Hydrocarbon. These are our partners. And we own 55%. Some of them we are 100% operators. Some we are JV partners, inclusive of companies like Elcres. Now the oil. What I would like to tell you is that we don't even stay within this axis. For this, I would like to reveal to you that the frontier exploration, which we are fully involved, which was commissioned by Mr. President, Mr. Muhammadu Buhari, sometime this year, which we are going to build fertilizer plants, integrated refinery within, and of course, power plant within the axis. Today, our LPG is going around the country. We have off-takers that are coming, have been taken. So what I'm trying to say here is, in nutshell, is Business opportunities are abound. We have been collaborating with people like the Multinets, the PEs, the Grameen, the WeFree. Those days, I remember some 30 years ago when you come, you see Beroid, you see MI Macoba, and you see a lot of other oil companies that are there. International, Dowell. Today, some of them are no more. Some of them are there. Today, when you go, you see WeFree, you see eMighty, you see a lot of companies that are local. This, we give the credit to engineer Simbi Wambote for creating that platform. And indeed, we will continue to collaborate and provide, give you the opportunity to do business with us while we deliver on our mandates. Now, let me tell you something. What we do is that we don't do it off the cuff. We do it through the processes. We have platforms where we get our vendors. You utilize the NIPEX and, of course, the NOGIC. Recently, I think we just closed a bid, and a lot of them are coming out. Our drilling campaign alone, we are going to deliver over 60 wells between now and 2024. This creates opportunity for rig provision, ancillary services, and a host of other things to do. I would not fail to mention what we do within our communities. We have empowered, and we will continue to empower them, and we are doing a lot. And some of them, they can attest that. Today, if you go to Saple, you can see our footprints and what we have done to the community and the other communities where we operate. So on that note, I would like to say, last but not the least, we operate safely, integrate all environmental, health, safety, and ensure that we comply with them through either ISO certification and observing the policies of NEPL and indeed NNPC Limited at large. Lastly, I will say thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I see you're learning very quickly from your boss. Okay, NEPL, the former MPDC. It's good to see one of the gains of the PIA and how the NEPL is evolving with a target of 300,000 barrels of oil per day. It looks like you have interesting projects in your array to strengthen the opportunities that exist for us in the industry. And this is very commendable. I'll try to manage the time now. We had a 90-minute session, but I've just been told by the organizers that we need to cut it short due to the time lost from the earlier sessions. So I'll just take 2 questions very quickly. I'll come to you, Osage, and then one to Bala as well. Osage, for Bonga Southwest, what is the outlook? What are the showstoppers right now? And when do you see, in terms of timeline, that this project would start up?
Thanks, Rosario. It was always 2 front-runner projects. It was always Bonga Southwest and Bonga North. So we put heads together with our partners, and in particular with NAPIMS, as it was then called, New is Now, to say the CapEx requirement for these 2 projects is significant. So how do we prioritize? And Bonga North being a simpler tieback project, we decided together with our partners to move Bonga North ahead of Bonga Southwest. So that's why all the efforts today are going into Bonga North. Eloho is spending a lot of time with Bala and the team to just make sure we deliver that project. And straight on the back of that, you saw it on my slide, straight on the back of that, the partners agreed to indeed move to Bonga Southwest. And you ask about challenges. I mean, the challenges are essentially much of what I highlighted earlier. But the one I would highlight in particular, and this is the one we're having extensive discussions both with our partners and also the Executive Secretary of the NCDMB, is how we essentially high-grade contractor capacity, both local and international, such that we are able to get prices and bids that make these projects workable, make them bankable. Otherwise, when the economics are borderline, it's always it's a struggle, not just for us, but also for the concessionaire. So if there's one immediate challenge we have to deal with Bonga Southwest, is to get that project to a place where the economics work. The resource base is tremendous. It's certainly one of the best projects we have in the group. So we clearly want to do it, but we want to do it on the basis that the economics work and is competitive. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer. It's good to understand that, and I trust you, under your leadership, that together with your partners, you would be able to unlock, the dimension for that project through solving the issues with the economics for the project. Bala, I'll come to you. My question is more on the investment side, and I would like to understand. You mentioned, solving the cash call issues. One of the issues we've seen in the industry is, or the operators have always cried out about the cash call. So it's very good to see that this is gradually being solved. I don't know if this current solution that has been provided is temporary or is a sustainable pathway for the future. But, the other thing I would like to understand is with all the IOCs divesting and investment inflows not reaching us as you rightly identified, what strategy is NNPC Limited and NUIMS as the investment driver, putting in place to attract and retain this foreign direct investment, especially for the future projects that have been outlined by all our opportunity presenters?
Well, again, thank you very much. We've been partners to a lot of people, the two gentlemen by my left and right, for upward of 60 years. We've always performed our obligations. The world came under attack by COVID in 2020, where for the first time, people are begging people to come and take oil free. Prices went to minus $13. At the time when the cost of, or the price of oil in Nigeria were selling at $13 per barrel, some countries are selling at minus 13. While we're getting $13 per barrel as price, the cost of producing the barrel from Shell and Chevron was over $40. If the revenue I'm going to use to pay for my cost is the revenue I'm getting from the oil price, there's no way $13 can pay for $40 oil. And we knew we had a problem. Thanks to NCDMB, thanks to all the regulators and the practitioners, we confronted it head on. We tried to moderate the cost. Today, I'm glad to say we're seeing barrels in their 20s, though high 20s. But most importantly, while COVID was exiting and growth began to come back, we now were confronted with significant security challenges, whereby you don't even get the barrel that you can sell to get the $40. So you produce, and someone else take the barrels. If it's not taken, it's drilled into the environment. It was a difficult moment. We came to a situation whereby we basically can function. Again, collaboration works. We confronted the issue and we reversed the trend. From less than 1 million barrels July, August last year, to today an average of 1.6. And hopefully by July, we'll be at 1.8, which is our budget target, which is also, by coincidence, close to our OPEC quota. There's no way we'll be able to pay our money. So we were faced with the challenges. But the SOCO came when we have all the assets and we concluded our transition to NNPC Limited And that was when NOEMs were created from former NAPIMS, NNPC Upstream Investment Management Services, where responsibility was squarely allocated to it. Meet your obligations, and the obligation are simply two dimensions. Pay your cost and get your production. I'm glad, and I said it before, we have cleared cash call. We paid all our outstanding cash call except for April, which we hope by today, tomorrow, everybody will get it. And that brought us to up to speed on top of the cash call. The cash call puts significant stress on the industry.
Thank you. I don't think.
Service providers were not being paid. Our partners were challenged to a level that even salary become an issue.
Thank you. Can you wrap at this time? The organizers are calling for time management. Sorry.
So I think the wrapping is just to say that we've seen the worst, and it's time now for us to grow. And our trajectory is backed by bankable opportunities. Projects that are ongoing, under construction, and projects that are going to be FID. What that means is that there's going to be significant activity in the industry, and the people in this room should brace up. Brace up and be ready to take the opportunity and run with it. NNPC under Malam Mele Kari and with the support of NOEMS, we will support you. We will work with NCDM, we will work with the regulators and all other partners to ensure that we support Nigerian players. But please, avoid being middleman and woman adding no value, because we will not deal with you, and you can complain to Simbi, you can complain to anybody that he cares. There's no way we can deal with portfolio companies. Thank you very much.
That was a very good wrap. I think I don't need to say anything again. You have said it all. The opportunities are mass. I thank you very much to all the panelists for taking the time to be here today. Your knowledge, your leadership, and your sharing the insights on opportunities hopefully have, provided more insights for the audience today on the opportunities that are bound for the industry. There's immense potential for Nigeria, and together we can create a future where Nigeria's upstream sector not just flourishes, but also becomes a beacon of sustainable development and prosperity, not just in Nigeria, across Africa, and globally. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have taken out insights on the opportunities that abound in the industry in the coming years, in the short term, mid-term, and long term. And I hope you found the session very engaging. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The first session will be for 20 minutes, while that's the first technical session. And then the second opportunity session will be for 40 minutes. So we'll try as much as possible to manage your time efficiently. We do not want to keep you here longer than necessary. Our scheduled time for today for this first part of the program was 3:40, 3:50. So we believe by a few minutes past 4, we should be proceeding for lunch, and then you can go to your hotels and prepare for the dinner. Thank you so much for your patience and cooperation. Please grab your keypads so we can vote before we have the first technical session. Do we have our keypads? Media have already the question. Which stakeholder group has benefited the most from NOGOF? Which stakeholder group has benefited the most from NOGOF? Please, let's vote. Thank you. Please, let's vote. Let's vote so we can move straight to the first technical session. All right, if we're done voting, can we have the answer? The question is, which stakeholder group has benefited the most from NOGOF? And the answer is on the screen. To local oil servicing companies, 76 0.77%. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for participating in the voting process. Timmy, please.
My esteemed panelists, distinguished delegates, guests, once again, my name is Isaac Yala, the Director of Finance and Personnel, NCDMB. I'm quite ecstatic to serve as your host and moderator for this very crucial technical session. Today's first technical session focuses on linkage industries, oil and gas as a catalyst to fuel the industrial sector, exploring the interdependent relationship and implication for growth and development. This session is aimed to provide insight into significant role of the oil and gas sector and its enormous potentials to stimulate growth if adequately utilized. The industrial sector owes its flourishing state to numerous contributing factors, of which oil and gas consumption and productions are very vital. However, while the oil and gas have a very crucial role in driving growth and progress, other factors lead to the development of various industries. In today's rapid evolving world with its dynamism and innovation, we cannot overemphasize the importance of oil and gas industry, which create linkage industries to strengthen the supply chain network while aiding in several sector developments. This linkage industry operates under upstream, midstream, downstream sectors of the oil and gas industry. Aside from its direct contributions, the oil and gas industry operates several infrastructure projects, including pipelines, refineries, gas processing plants, which facilitate transportation and also processing of raw materials and products for the industrial sector. Interestingly, some of the oil companies today invest in renewables. We all hear about the shift of energy transition, leading to diversified energy mix to reduce greenhouse emissions and promote sustainable industrial development in the long term. Despite these benefits, the relationship between oil and gas industry and the industrial sector is not without its challenges. However, we believe this discussion will address some of these problems, create opportunities to integrate oil and gas operations in a broader industrial framework, and also foster mutual beneficial partnership to drive growth and prosperity in this sector. So we are gathered here. We have very top experts in different sectors of the economy and also linkage sectors to share their experiences, exchange ideas, and also network to facilitate meaningful and long-lasting progress in the industrial sector. So we welcome everyone to join us in this engaging and informative discussion. So to kick off, I think we already have a minute gone. So I think what we'll do basically is to get each of the panelists to expound on this subject topic itself, very, very important subject topic. So I would like to start from my far right. Let me start from my far right. I can't get the name again because he was brought into. So can you just help us and then expound on this subject matter itself? Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Engineer Chukeze, representing the GCO of OISAV, Engineer Meko Okusa. Talking about the topic, catalyst for gas as a catalyst for industrialization, we would like to emphasize that we have all know that in the country, as also presented in the various presentations in the morning section, we have this abundance of gas. It requires investments in the upstream to explore this gas, to make it available for exports to be able to generate revenue for the country, as well as fulfill domestic needs. Currently, OISAV is playing a role in the construction of the AKK Segment 1 project, which is one of the projects of interest to the nation that will help industrialization.
most of the power that we have in country, Nigeria, it's 80% of this is coming from gas-powered system. And for you to have industrialization and stimulate economy and growth, gas and power is essential and is needed. So it's formed and will remain a catalyst in industrialization and in developing the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I come to Hassan, Butane Energy. I know your company is very much involved in gas distribution projects around the northern part of this country. So relative from your own industry perspective, how would you want to address this particular subject matter?
Okay, thank you very much. As you know, gas consumption in the north today is barely 8%, especially when you start to move to the liquefied gases. And moving compressed natural gas up north is very expensive, and most industries in the north are closing down because it's almost impossible for them to access gas. With the AKK pipeline, of course, some of those problems will be resolved. What are we doing at Butane Energy is really building gas facilities up north and start to convert that gas to energy in development of commercial and industrial sectors, and start to build them up, converting gas to energy for cooking, heating, and even for power. This is what we focused on, and we are going interland. We are going as far as going into Bauchi, going into Katsina, going into Kano, and trying to get people to start to convert from using the dirty fuels, and also trying to support the drive for clean energy, moving people from using the dirty fuels to using clean energy. It's been a challenge because, of course, there's a lot of deforestation in the north. People are used to, cooking with firewood and using kerosene and whatnot. So what we've tried to do is, encouraging them, supporting them, and of course, with the help of SCDMB, building facilities and making gas accessible to the north. Thank you.
All right, so it looks like the three of you there are gas experts. So it's like they separated us into the gas experts and also the others. So, Mr. Gas, Mr. Obong, so can you also help us? Let's understand, from your own perspective, from Shell Gas point, how it contributes to creating that kind of industrial harmony.
Yeah, I think we've been in this fantastic hall, courtesy of the NCDMB all morning, and we have not seen the lights go off. Something tells me that at the back of this building somewhere that there is a gas generator, and gas is being used to power this facility. Power does play such a key role in driving industrial development. If you don't solve power, energy via gas or via hydro, whatever sources, industrialization would not happen. At Shell Nigeria Gas, we are committed to support Nigeria's growth by working with our partners, including the Nigerian Gas Marketing Limited, to build out the last infrastructure that will take gas to the industrial clusters. We have a big cluster in Agbara, Ota. We're doing work, most importantly, in Bayelsa. Bayelsa is the largest gas exporting hub in Nigeria. We believe that charity must begin from home. So Shell Nigeria Gas is building a gas distribution line to the NCDMB Polaco Park. So if you are a manufacturer, if you lead where you're going to get reliable supply of gas, please speak to the NCDMB, take a position in that Polaco Park. By the end of the year, that will be the most reliable industrial cluster in Nigeria. Gas will be there, so you won't be worrying about power. And we then look forward to having more industries and also driving economic growth here in Bayelsa. Bayelsa, I think, like I said, we're already working on constructing. We are active in Rivers State. We are active in Abia State. We've done a groundbreaking ceremony in faraway Ibadan. But we know that the gas comes from here. And our vision is that the whole of the Niger Delta needs to industrialize using gas as a key resource. Delta State, Imo State, Akwa Ibom State, Cross River State, and then we then build out the industries. Nigerians are industrious people, so they want to work. Today, they spend a lot of money on diesel. Some people even run petrol for industries, which would be a big, significant cost. When that switch to gas happens, I think the economics for industrialization begins to work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's quite exciting to hear from the three gas men. Now we are moving to the other side now. Mr. Kadri, you are the DG Manufacturing Association of Nigeria. Hearing from your colleagues there, from our own panelists in India talking about it, from your own industrial perspective, from your own manufacturing perspective, how would you see, this subject matter, how does oil and gas become a catalyst, into industrial development and also initiative in this country? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think there's a lot of music coming from that side. When you hear the gas supporting industry and somebody from the oil and gas promising and asking that manufacturers should key into that opportunity, that is music in the air. Because for us in the manufacturing sector, depending on how power intensive your company is somewhere between 35 to 40% of our cost structure. So if you are able to deal with that challenge, you become more and more competitive. But structurally, oil and gas on one hand and manufacturing on the other, they have a symbiotic relationship. And it's coincidental that both sectors are adding only 9%, about 9% to GDP. Manufacturing is also, for more than a decade, has been between 9 to 10%. When you have this kind of a thing in a developing economy, it speaks to non-competitiveness, and it gives the impression that you are not able to optimize all the opportunities that the natural resources you have in your environment has endowed you with. So for the two sectors to relate and become cohesive in terms of advancing national development, there's need for a closer relationship such that the oil and gas is able to catalyze the industrialization process. For more than 2 decades now, manufacturing has been performing about 50% installed capacity, which means that most of the imported products are able to compete more favorably against the local manufacturers, and it costs to the cost of their production. For us in the manufacturing sector, if, for instance, we are able to solve the issues of power supply, which depends on an oil and gas industry that is effective and supportive, and we are able to source some of our raw materials that rely on that sector to produce, we are likely to optimize our manufacturing processes, and we become more and more competitive. This is more so, and I think it's an existential issue. It's a matter of survival that we are able to look inwards. And that's why my brother, the executive secretary, have had so many fantastic things that he's talking about. So it's now necessary for us, for the local content to be brought to the mid and downstreams, such that all industry players are able to benefit. He has done a very fantastic thing with some of our members in cable manufacturing, in paints and coatings, metal fabrication, but we have only about 5% of our membership in that segment. So there's need for us to deepen the conversation that brings the cooperation level we have to those ones that play, because 80% of my members are in the small and medium scale enterprise. So there's need for us to watch more closely so that industry will be able to lean on the successes that have been achieved in the oil and gas for us to industrialize. Thank you.
I think that sounds very exciting because you're talking a lot about collaboration. How do we collaborate, different sectors of the industry to collaborate to be able to actualize this very important area that we're talking about today. Let me come to you, Dr. Omagu. You have been in the DFI amongst all of us in here. So we're talking about funding. Yeah. So can we see this subject from a funding perspective? How would you want to describe, funding as relative to supporting manufacturing to grow in this country?
Thank you, Isaac. Good evening, everyone. Essentially, if you look at even the title of this technology itself it's talking about linkage of the oil and gas industry acting as a catalyst for economic growth. I will say that oil and gas itself is like a nucleus of the real sector. As a nucleus, a lot of things originate from there outwards. I mean, the DFI space, and one of the things that we've done over the last couple of years is to look at the various industries and their value chain. And look at the oil and gas industry, it touches almost every aspect of our national life. You know, so if you take the upstream, there are things to do there. Even from serviette that is supply at when you go to do drilling offshore. So every aspect of our life is touched by oil and gas. So that linkage is very, very clear. And in the course of doing that, you now realize that for those various players to be able to operate even in their own spaces, not only oil and gas, for the products from oil and gas to come to them, they need some level of support to be able to patronize whatever is coming out of the oil and gas. I mean, if you take refinery, for example, the crude comes, it goes to refinery, and a lot of products come out of that refinery, and that goes into feeding other industries in terms of raw materials. So if the oil and gas industry is very well organized and established, and the thing is effective, then we will depend less on imported inputs into the various risk sector industries. What Bank of Industry has done is, first of all, to derive its mandate from the National Industrial Revolution Plan that MAN was very involved in. And so we created a structure around the various parts of the economy. So you take agro-processing, you take food and beverages, you go to mining, you go to chemical and industrial minerals. All those, most of these things get their input from oil and gas, just to establish the issue of linkage between oil and gas and the other parts of the real sector. And so what we do is to also, beyond trying to act on the mandate of NIRP, that MAN was very involved in crafting, is to now create a structure to deal with the various participants along the value chain, whether it's in oil and gas space or in other real sector players. So, you mentioned something about what challenges around infrastructure as well. If you don't have power, and you come to try to operate an industry, you're going to have challenge with your costs. And if you take money from us and cannot pay back, there may be a problem. So ultimately what we have done is to create structures to take care of SMEs, to take care of micro enterprises, and to take care of large enterprises, assets in large enterprises. And ultimately, those ones are able to now target specific sectors that are playing in the industry and ultimately create value to cause impact that's required. And impact is around employment generation, around import substitution, and poverty alleviation, as well as foreign exchange earnings.
See how time flies. We just have less than 5 minutes to go. But I think what I will do now is from the part of funding, I think, because it's very, very critical in the success of what we're talking today. Because the commercial end of funding is not here, but we're talking about the development side of financial services. So understanding with what NCDMB has done with BOI, this comes to you, Dr. Magu. Yeah. How would you see us, working together to be able to develop manufacturing entities, and incubate them in our industrial parks that we have, that we're trying to work on now?
So thank you. We've been in bed, in quotes, with NCDMB since 2017, and we got the bulk. Most of the other monies came by end of 2020. So we have a fund size of about $300 million that will be using to support players in the oil and gas space, but trying to drive indigenous participation in the oil and gas industry. What has happened in the last couple of months is the fact that the part that has to do with manufacturing has not been properly utilized. So both sides came together, that's NCD and BI came together and said, we need to set aside another separate fund to be able to support players that would be targeted at manufacturing. And luckily, NCDB has created the infrastructure. Again, the challenge of trying to address infrastructure challenge, to overcome a challenge of infrastructure. So set up, they have planned for 6 parks across 6 states in the country, oil producing states. 2 of them are already at 95% completion. I'm sure you probably talk about it better than me. And one is in MAL. The first one is MAL 1. Another one is in the Cross River State, about 95% complete. Hopefully by Q4 of this year, those parks will be ready. So that takes care of the challenge of infrastructure that players may have as far as oil and gas production is concerned. And then what is the requirement now? So it's called NOGAF, Nigerian Oil and Gas Park Scheme. We currently have a fund of about $50 million that we are using on behalf of NCDMB to support that initiative. What is required is that you don't necessarily have to contribute to the Nigerian Content Development Fund. All you need is to be a tenant, to apply to be a tenant in that park. And then you come to us, there are terms. You can take up to $3 million maximum, a minimum of $350,000. And then in Naira, it's 1.5 billion maximum and 100 million Naira minimum. And the rates are fixed, single digit, and it's long tenured, and it doesn't change, unlike commercial banks. Sorry. So that's how it is.
All right, so we're talking about, actually, just to add to what you have said, we had what we call the NCIF fund, which is the intervention fund with Bank of Industry. But out of our own curiosity and also to ensure that we incubate manufacturing in our industrial parks, we've been able to work with them, to create a kind of fund that would be given as an incentive to most manufacturing entity that will want to come and then establish their manufacturing outfits in our own industrial parks. So with that in mind, Mr. Kadri, do you think there's a place for synergy with your own sector, to ensure that some of these industrial parks being set up by NCDMB would be actualized properly, by way of getting in tenants into these parks?
Yes, certainly. I think the industrial parks are going to resolve some of the challenges that manufacturers have. And when they are located in those places, they are able to have power, which is knocked off. They're also not going to be infested with all the multifarious taxes and levies that they are susceptible to when they are outside of the area. So I think it calls for collaboration. It's something that will come knocking pretty soon, and we'll be able to get those manufacturers that will be able to generate employment in the locations where they are at, and to be able to promote their competitiveness, especially now that we are entering into the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, and each country is looking inwards to be able to improve on its competitiveness and comparative advantage. So I think it's a very good way for us to collaborate.
Thank you very much. I think we have less than 30 seconds left, and I can see that the moderator is already trying to get us to finish up the program on time. So what I will do at this point in time, also to the audience, is the fact that at lunch and also at the dinner gala night, most of these participants in here, you can engage them to get a deeper insight into what they do and how we can support the linkage sector to be able to grow industrialization in this part of the world. But one final take from MD Shell Gas, Mr. Obong. So hearing from the manufacturing side and also hearing from the funding side, what kind of collaboration do you think is necessary, to put all of this together?
No, I think I agree fully with the man director. And so as Shell Nigeria Gas, we are very close to the MAN. They actually are partners. So we attend their conferences, we sponsor their conferences. We also try to be sure that where they are holding meetings across the nation, that we also attend. That's our market. But I think there's also still some work to be done. So this night, for instance, I get into London to talk to investors about investing in Ibadan, organized by the states or your state. So I think there's some value there also for some of the governors in the Delta to begin to go outside to talk to investors about what they need to do to bring investment back in the state. What is most important is that Bayelsa already has the competitive advantage. NCDMB has set up a park. Shell is building a line to supply gas to that park. So really, for an investor, he's only asking himself, I'm coming there, power has been solved. So it's already a very attractive proposition. Of course, I'm also aware that the NCDMB has signed an agreement to provide power for gaps locations, together with, I think, NGML is also involved in that conversation, or Tetraco. But these are the sort of collaborations that build the basic ground to allow industries to flourish. Power is the biggest headache for the Manufacturers Association in Nigeria. take it away, and I think you would see how the Nigerian industry will continue to grow in leaps and bounds. Thank you.
So once again, thank you very much, everyone, all the panelists, for taking out your time. We had two things: collaboration. We need to work together to actualize this. We need to build things together and all of it. So once again, I'd like to thank all my panelists for taking out their time. The time wasn't enough, but I think we'll be able to make justice to this very important topic. Thanks a lot.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished delegates, talk about managing the time expertly and doing a great job of sharing from their wealth of personal and professional experience. Allow me to beg your indulgence. Please give them another round of applause as they step forward for a group photograph. Paparazzi, that is your cue. And yes, our junior host, ES, is joining them for this photograph. Gentlemen, middle of the stage, please. Thank you. So let's have that group photograph right about now.
I would like to stand on the already established protocol, and we will not be taking much of your time because I know we have the graveyard shift, so we don't want people falling asleep. This is a very, very important panel because, and it's interesting to me because every member of the panel is working in a Nigerian oil company, and we already have seen the trend that the Nigerian oil companies are basically taking the lead now as far as exploration and production activities are concerned in the industry, given the level of divestment activities that we're seeing happening. So I'm going to be inviting each of the opportunity presenters to take the stage to make their short presentation straight to the point, very succinct. And then I would ask them a few questions drawing from their presentations and hopefully give the audience an opportunity to participate in this engagement. So without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Osai Giehon of Here's Oil and Gas Limited to please give us his presentation. Thank you.
Hello. Okay, stand. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Very pleased to be here, standing on all existing protocols. I'll given the time pressure, I'm just going to give a quick summary. I won't go into all the slides. So here's Oil and Gas, operator of OMS 17. Our block is essentially the northern part of River State. We sit on an acreage that has about 1 billion barrels of oil and about 2 TCF of gas. We acquired the asset from Shell January of 2021 and took over operational control in July of 2021. Production, we inherited about 27,000 barrels. We took it up to 50,000 barrels shortly after that. And we inherited gas production of about 50 million scf, and we had been able to take it to about 100 million scf after that. Yes. However, lots of challenge in 2021, already talked about with the crude theft, which essentially we stopped production for a year, and we have restarted production again with the successes that have been recorded. I talked about by both GCU and Ambala, and we are fully backed on stream, and what our current focus is to try to rebuild our production capability. So if you look at the kind of opportunity, in light of that, if you look at the kind of opportunities that we are dealing with, I will look at it, our development is in kind of 3 stages. So currently we are trying to get back to 50,000, so that involves lots of operator and maintenance work and well work. And this next stage is for us to do a lot of rigless interventions and then workovers. So for the next 2 or 3 years, we are going to be really around rigless interventions and workovers because we have a very rich well stock. We want to make to maximize the production utilization of those activities. The second thing that we will be working on is to professionalize all the services that we receive. There's lots of manpower type services that are not as professional as you should be, which you inherited. So we are trying to professionalize all of those. So whether it's electrical services, whether it's mechanical services. We want a more professional approach towards all of those. The third area that we'll be looking at is around procurement of equipment of all sorts to support our expansions. We won't be doing a lot of massive investments in surface equipment because we have largely enough surface capacity established. We will be debottlenecking here or there, but not building new stuff, so to speak, for us. The one area that may be significant from a surface perspective would be infield dehydration, so water dehydration to help us create more capacity even in the surface facilities. So those are the kind of things you see. So as we took over in 2021, we inherited quite a number of contracts and we are running them, but we are now in the circle of trying to now get out of those and establish new contracts. So you've seen some of our contracts come out in IPEX, and over the next coming period, you begin to see a lot more as we transit from the kind of the rollovers that we did into our own substantive contracts. So in terms of just giving an overview of the asset and the opportunities as a function of our development trajectory, that's the summary I want to share. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Just to quickly recap, I'd like to focus on the opportunities, because that's why we're here. You're aiming to increase your production, and most of the opportunities that are here are going to be driven by people. So I'm very interested in your human capacity focus, which is optimizing your operational services. Whilst your tenders are going out, I assume that the companies you're currently using are Nigerian companies. So if you're trying to migrate to other Nigerian companies, then the contractors who are sitting in this room need to realize that excellence and professionalism will be a focus for your organization if you were to participate in what you're doing. Thank you very much for that. I would like to just call the next speaker, Mr. Akinyemi Johnson, who's the General Manager, Projects, Green Energy International Limited. Thank you.
Standing on the existing protocol, on behalf of Green Energy International Limited, we want to thank the organizer of this event for inviting us to make this presentation. The truth is, 1 hour will not be enough to tell our stories. I believe next time we'll be able to come. Green Energy International Limited, we are an energy integrated company. We are interested in oil and gas production and exploration, as well as renewable energy. Just as our name is green, we believe that the renewable energy is the energy of the future, and actively we are already planning to play a key role in that development. When we are the operator of Otakipo Marginal Field in the southern part of OML 11, and when we inherited that field, it was as if we were stranded. Nothing was existing. In terms of export infrastructure, nothing. Shell Bonny was like 40 kilometers away from us. Kwai Butamina, like 50 kilometers away from us. Hamni, like 30 kilometers away from us. We are just standing alone in a deep swamp. In short, if you want to go to full production at just 5,000 barrels per day, you will require almost $150 million to develop. In terms of seismic, what we have is 2D. No testing, nothing. So it was fully a green field, and it was a real difficulty at the time we started. But being an innovative company, we developed a very special development arrangement. What we did was, okay, we know we cannot lay a pipeline to Hamni, which is like 30 kilometers away from us, which is just FSO. What can we do? So we started by, we checked, can we do short pipelines into the offshore? Because our assets stranded between the land and sea. We are just by the shoreline. So we said, okay, if we can do a pipeline, people told us it was not possible. And we engaged industry experts. And today, the solution we are using, we are the only company in Nigeria that is using at the moment as part of our phase 1 activities. We built 8-kilometer pipeline, 2-kilometer onshore, 6 offshore. We had a plane and some marine hoses and floating hoses with some mooring ropes, drag anchors, and we were able to engage WCC. We got a vessel that can bet in that water. The water depth is about 6 meters, very challenging. And today we are producing. We started 2015. By 2017 February, we hit the first oil. Luckily for us, we were doing about 6,000 barrels per day. And we pick it from there. We were renting space at Amni where we do our exports. But because of the expansion of Amni, they told us they want to use some space. So we know that we are limited. We could not do more than 10,000 barrels per day. And so what we did as a company was to do seismic acquisition, to understand the field. And we saw a lot of prospect, and we were able to prove our reserves. So again, what do? Now, we see that the field has potential to do up to 25,000 barrels per day, but we are still limited by that export infrastructure. What we just did was to look at the case study approach. What is Shell doing? What is Brass doing? What is Kwaibo doing? What is Escravor doing? Why can't we do it? And that was how we came up with the idea of our onshore terminal. And this onshore terminal is the first onshore terminal in Nigeria to be owned by an indigenous company. We have 5 onshore terminals in Nigeria today. We have the Bonny and the Forcados owned by Shell. We have the Kwabo terminal owned by ExxonMobil. We have the Brass owned by Hajib, and we have the Escravor owned by Chevron. None is owned by indigenous company. So we said we can have one. We can have one, 750,000 to start with. We can expand it to 2 million barrels. Right around us in OML 11, there are more than 30 stranded fields that they are not producing. Why? Because there's no export infrastructure. The one that was existing has been damaged, and all of them are stranded. And some of them are even 5 kilometers away from us. These are opportunities how Nigerian can actually ramp up production. Then we came up with this idea. We are going to have onshore terminal close to the shoreline. Then we have a pipeline 23 kilometers into the sea. We have an SPM system. Then a very large cargo carrier of about 1 million barrels can actually bet in that water. And that is exactly what we did. Today, the project is underway. And in fact, to shock you, we are 6 months ahead of schedule. By this time next year, we would definitely invite NCDMB Executive Secretary to come and be part of people that will commission the system. I would have loved to stress every other things we did, how we go about the process, but because of the time, maybe some other time you can invite us and we'll be able to speak more on this. Thank you so much.
Well done to Green Energy for just using innovation throughout your existence and finding ways to be more efficient, even in challenging circumstances. And I think it's interesting what you're saying, and I'll come back to you. I'll give you time, because I think the audience is interested in hearing a bit more about this project and how quickly it's coming on stream, and then really where the areas of collaboration and even more partnership can lie in what you're doing. And well done to you and your team. Okay, without much ado, I will call Mr. Boma Brown, who is the Chief Operating Officer of First Hydrocarbon Nigeria Limited, to just walk us through very quickly the opportunities that they have working on. Thank you.
Thank you. Standing on existing protocols, I'll be talking about First Hydrocarbon. It's a non-operated joint venture. We are in OML 26. We quickly go through it. It's an asset that is operated by NEPL. So when Ishmaela was making his presentation, we were one of the assets under his portfolio. But the key thing is that it's completely indigenous, and we believe in the full EMP spectrum. What are the opportunities? So I quickly go into the opportunities. OML 26 focused on exploration activity, specifically on gas, and we were able to go down to 18,000 feet along hole drilling. It's called the high pressure, high temperature, and we are ready to share the knowledge with people. Presently it's undergoing processing, and we will come back. It was a major gas play, a major gas discovery, and we plan to focus on that and bring them into fruition. So in 18 months' time, we believe we will be carrying out the full spectrum of oil and gas value chain activities, but all of them will be in collaboration with the operator of the asset, which is NEPL. We believe there will be significant opportunities because based on the findings we've made and thereafter the activities that will come in, it will decide whether we are going to the export market or to the domestic market. But it is a major find, and we believe these services will be available. The exploration activity I talked about was 100% achieved by indigenous companies. It was an indigenous rig, and indigenous companies were the ones involved. Chevron Nigeria Limited was the indigenous drilling contractor that did that service. And we believe that we will continue to use indigenous services. That drilling activity alone costs us over $90 million. We are a local player and we are a neighbor player. We won't be talking about billions, but we know that the opportunities that we'll be able to share with indigenous people will be tremendous based on the fact that we'll be able to upscale and be on a learning curve with everyone. So please, do feel free through NEPL or through First Hydrocarbon to contact us because we will be focusing on those who will be able to grow with us in terms of skills development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boma Brown. I just want to note before I invite the last speaker that I like how everybody is very quick to mention how much Nigerian content they're doing and how Nigerianized most of their services are. So that just goes to further stress the impact that the Nigerian Content Monitoring and Development Board has made in the industry, where that consciousness just remains for everyone, both international oil companies and Nigerian oil companies. So without wasting more time, I would like to invite our last speaker. Please, audience, I would like you to get ready to ask questions, to engage, and of course they'll be available after this session for further discussion before I give them my questions. This is Mr. John Alamu. He's the General Manager, Engineering and Capital Project, First E&P Development Company Limited. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's past 4 o'clock, so it's in order to say good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to stand on all existing protocols, but certainly not without recognizing the good work that the NCDMB has done and is doing currently, of course, under the able leadership of Engineer Simbi Wabote. It takes passion to do what he's doing, and I can imagine he sleeps and wakes up with ideas that have taken us to where we are today. Thank you very much, sir. My managing director ought to be here doing this. He had lined up everything to be here, but then for some reasons outside everybody's control, the board meeting that should have held last week was moved to today and tomorrow. So he's unable to come in. So he sends his apology, and that's why I'm standing here. I'm going to be snappy like my colleagues. I would speak to the profile of the company, talk about the projects, talk about the current status, the opportunities we have as indigenous players, contractors, and I'll share a few images. The objective is not lost on us. It's about showcasing the opportunities. And if we get that message, I think we would have succeeded. So First E&P, we started our business in 2012 in earnest. The company was registered 2011. We started operations 2012 July. So last year we were 10 years. And in the 10 years, I believe we have taken giant strides. The company acquired assets in OML 83 and 85, which before that time belonged to Chevron, Texaco. And in the space of time since the assets were acquired, that in the shallow offshore space, we have actually developed the fields, and we had first oil in October 2020. So we have been in production for about 2.5 years now, and it's not a small feat given the fact that we are doing all of this in the shallow offshore space. So we are in 83 and 85 OML. We are the operators of that asset. And I would not like to go into too much of story around that. We have other assets. And those two other assets are just assets where we have working interest. There is OML 7172, where we have 6.75% interest, which we are not the operators. And of course, we have OML 34, which MPDC talked about, NEPL already talked about. And in that, we have working interest of 4.5%, having farmed into ND Western. Now, what have we done and what is our development concept? And I think that diagrammatically, I would like us to show it. Whoever is running the slides, if you could show the schematic of the development, I would appreciate that. Please go further. Yes, this is where we are. The area that is marked phase 1A, that is already in place, and we are producing in that field, Anyala field, in particular in OML 83. Phase 1B is what we are currently working on, which is developing the Madu field as a satellite field to Anyala field. And by this time, by the last quarter of this year, we should have additional production from Madu coming into the FPSO, and that will be about 20,000 barrels a day. Right now in Anyala, we produce about 45,000 barrels of oil per day on a consistent basis, and that is not a small feat for an indigenous company that we have. So where are we right now? You would see current Anyala West operations. We have an FPSO in Anyala, and we offtake our crude by loading in tandem. So a lot of maintenance activities are imperative. We'll have fabric maintenance, we'll have underwater maintenance, we'll have inspections, all sorts. We'll have tanker mooring systems, anchor handlers. The marine activities are huge. Here operations are huge. And also production chemicals we have to procure from time to time. I must say that we have done everything we have done to date without a single lost time incident since we started off. And that is something we are trusting God to help us keep, because it has not been an easy journey, but then we have been helped by God to do that much. I've talked about Anyala activities, Madu drilling operations. Just to share the slides on the screen, you can see what we are doing in Madu. You see drilling rigs, you see support services, everything we are doing. By this time, by the end of this year, we would have drilled additional 5 wells in Madu, and already we have 7 wells drilled in Anyala, which are in production. But then we expect that we would have the Madu wells ready by the end of the year, including a gas well in Madu. I think we should skip Madu. Let me go to facility, topsides. I would like to share with us our model for producing in Anyala field. We have platforms which are wellhead platforms. We drill from those platforms and produce and flow onto the FPSO. The beauty is our platforms were built locally, they were fabricated locally, loaded out locally, installed locally successfully with indigenous contractors, and there was no issue whatsoever. So, and where the opportunity is for me is that this is what we have to replicate over time. We will continue to build platforms. We will continue to build pipelines, subsea pipelines, and we will continue to commission, we will continue to operate, because it's just the beginning. These are early days for 4CMP, and I know the journey is far ahead of us, but it's a beautiful journey. So we expect that indigenous players, indigenous service providers will continue to be busy as far as 4CMP operations and activities are concerned. So we'd like to welcome everyone on board. Our doors are always open, and we really do not have preferred bidders. We give equal opportunity to everyone. Where there is competence, where there is capacity, you can be sure that you will be a partner to 4CMP. And that is what we pride ourselves in doing. So in conclusion, let me just share a few photographs. If you go to a few photographs of what had been done, what had been built. These are platforms that were built locally, and this will be replicated as we develop other fields. This is SOF. We have pipelines. We are coating. These are all in the coating. These photographs came from a coating yard where we have pipes being coated right now for the MADU activities. I think I have one more photograph. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Are there areas that we would like the speakers to sort of elaborate on before I ask them specific questions? So I'd like to give the audience an opportunity, because I don't think the audience has had a chance to engage since the start of the program. Are there any questions, clarifications? Please just raise your hand so we can bring, I can see hands. Please. Can someone help me giving microphones to people who want to ask questions, please? There's a gentleman on the right side here.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, members of the panel. Thank you, moderator. I would like to ask members of the panel if they can kindly share their email addresses so that we can, reach them, because what they have presented are very interesting to all of us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think the organizers will take that on. I'm sure there'll be a way to get the, and I think on the Hoover app, there's, if they're registered, they're able to get the information, contact information of every speaker that's spoken today, during this event. So please register on that Hoover app. It's a very, very useful tool. Yes, there's a gentleman. Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is David West. Mine is just a comment. Indeed, it's an opportunity fair. But the comment I want to make is based on my brothers who are seriously engaged in this illegal artisanal refinery. I thought they would have made use of this golden opportunity to register in this fair, to come and engage with players in the oil and gas industry, to see how they can partner with them, share ideas, to bring out the creativity in them, and get partners rather than running rat race with security agencies, spending so much money to open artisanal refineries that will be destroyed tomorrow. Why not spend that money to invest in this fair and engage with players? Thank you very much.
Okay, just for clarity, are we talking about like the crude oil thieves? I'm just trying to clarify who would. Okay, but point.
Sorry, I wouldn't want to call them crude oil thieves, man.
Okay.
It's creativity that is in them. It's just that it is done in an abnormal way. Thank you.
Noted. That's a very interesting point, actually, and I know that my panelist is saying I should leave it, but let me just jump on it again. So you have a good point, because if they have that much intelligence and creativity to use the limited resources they have to actually do some kind of, refining of some sort, right, where their co-fire is even being utilized by companies, maybe there is talent there, right, that can be drawn out and channeled towards other sources. But the issue is that that money is fast money, right? But the money that comes through hard work, investments, commitment, is slower to come by. And maybe they might not be so interested, but that's a good point that we will note. And I see some security agencies that are here. I saw the corrections personnel just looked up and looked around, wondering if he has some potential visitors here. But thank you, that point is noted. That's on a lighter note. Okay, do we have any more questions from the audience before I tackle my guys? Okay, yes, I see one. Okay, so we'll take you. Can I have one or two women, please? We have to have that gender balance. Please, one or two women, ask a question before I close from the audience. Please go ahead,
Thank
sir.
you very much. My name is Oluwatoyin Alabi of Integrated Catering Company Limited. My question is this. Among all the opportunity enshrined when the speakers were making their point, one vital aspect was missing, which is how do we feed all these people that are on the platforms and on the site? Catering was not actually taken as a very critical aspect of the operations. I want this narrative to change because the people working on the platform are not fasting. And if their food are not good, there will always be crises on your platforms, on your rigs, and in locations. We have seen that the NIPEX platform always crowd out the indigenous catering operators. Is it possible that we create a basket of very competent, professionally enshrined and financially capable catering operators that we can make our service available at pocket-friendly rates to all these indigenous Nigerian operators so that we can collaborate with you, take away the burden of you thinking about what good food your people should have at a very good budget. That is just what I want to ask, because on the NIPES platform, we are always crowded out. A new basket can be generated, facilitated by SCDMB, to make our services available to all of you, and we can always be assured we'll give you the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I think I'm sure NCDMB has taken note of that. ES, do you want to respond to that? Okay. Okay. Do we have any more questions? Okay, so one last one, and then I will I think I have him, then I would like the panelists to answer some of my questions as well.
Thank you very much. My question is closely aligned to what Mr. Oluwatoyin Alabi said a while ago. We have small and medium-sized businesses interested in, engaging in providing services in the oil and gas industry, especially those in the support services like facility management, building maintenance, office services, logistics, and other services. But on the NIPES platform, they will not qualify for those kind of opportunities, especially because you have to have a certain threshold of contract size to actually go to some of those platforms. Many of those services at the smaller scale are managed internally within procurement department. How can we have those services flowing out to small and medium enterprises who want to provide services in these areas? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to invite Mr. Boma Brown to respond to that question, and also Mr. Osai Giehon, if you can also contribute to his response.
Hello. Yeah, I think let me take the previous speaker who talked about catering. I think for Efficient and its partner, JV partners, we've moved beyond that. In my slide, I showed hospitality. In our own case, we took over a Shell facility. We used to have what we call FLBs, field logistic bases. We discontinued that, and what we're now doing is partnering with a local, sorry to use the word, a community person who provides, his hotel facilities, and we house our people. What we are now looking at is more of the amount of money we are now paying to those community people as a way of providing services for us. And to give you a rough estimate, in terms of operating our single asset, we spend an annual amount of 1 billion naira with the person who provides hospitality with us from the indigenous community. That's what we are doing now. So we are now moving ahead with that space. On the other aspect of those little, the small value contractors with big volumes, yes, in those areas, I know that we use NIPEX, but some of us don't. In NEPL, we are not, now we want to use NIPEX, but we are always using indigenous contractors. A lot of things we do are also related to the indigenous people within our operating environment. And the beauty of indigenous operators like us is that we don't have that luxury. Our network is also indigenous. So maybe we have not met you, but I think within our own sphere of influence, within our own contacts, we are always using indigenous people. Thank you very much.
Okay. To just mention that, so for us, all the work we do, I mean, not just catering, across board, I can almost say 100% indigenous players. When you talk about the contracts that kind of, if you say below the NIPEX threshold, we have a vendor system where any vendor providing any service can get registered. I mean, if you go to our website, it's there. And then when we do have work that is below that threshold, we consider those who have registered with that website. So I welcome you to do same. And I'm sure most other companies have similar structures. Thank you.
Thank you. I was actually going to ask that to Mr. Boma Brown, if there is an opportunity for service contractors to register directly with the indigenous companies, because I assume that's where you now sort of do like a tender through that platform as opposed to NIPEX. I think even Total has what they call the Ariba, which is their own equivalence of a direct registration with them. Does First AMP have that as well, and for the other companies?
Yeah, you have indigenous, most of these contracts that are below NIPEX threshold, you just need to register with the indigenous companies, and they have their own contracting process.
So they can register with your company. Okay. Yes. Can we meet you after to collect the contacts of how we register?
Okay, that's fine.
Thank
but
you very
use
much.
The NCDMB process.
Okay. So. Yes, Mr. John, you were going to contribute.
On a normal day, First AMP would give first priority to an indigenous vendor. On a normal day, where capacity is proven and there's evidence that the contractor can deliver. Categorization is a fact of life. And the point has been well made by one of the people who spoke, that we can have things in baskets. There are things that if we don't segregate, if we don't stratify, then the indigenous players will lose out. Because by the time the evaluation is done, they will just find themselves at the bottom of the pack. Not because they cannot deliver it, but then it's competitive that way. So if there's a basket, we home in on that basket for the appropriate scope. Now, what do we do in First AMP? Vendors come in to introduce, to make presentations to the company, and we don't have vendors register since we started. What we do when we have an activity, a job to undertake, we, based on the strategy that has been agreed with our JV partners, whether selective tendering or whatever, we then look for companies that we know and who have come to us to demonstrate, showcase their capacity. We put them on the bidders list. And whoever wins, if it's not a contractor who is already registered, that is the beginning of the registration process. So once you work for us for the first time, then you get registered in the system. But we do not have a vendor register that is sitting somewhere, but the opportunity is always open to everyone, except we are not aware that that company offers that service professionally.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. John. But just to further buttress, and I'm a service contractor, so that's why I have interests. Okay, so, but just to further buttress, how do the companies now have access to make their presentations? So look at this room, at least maybe 80% of people here are probably service contractors. How will they have the opportunity to now make that presentation to display their capacity and their competence in their field?
Yeah, the companies make contact with us. Even if it is a free letter or email, we don't ignore it. We don't ignore it. We go back, we say, okay, can we have you visit on so date? Or in some cases, we have had to do virtual presentations because circumstances would not allow them to come in physically or something. But we don't ignore any such request.
Thank you very much, Mr. John. So that's Mr. John from First AMP. So after this event, it's a networking function. Please reach out, collect cards, and send that email. You just might get that appointment. I have 1 minute, but I must ask some very pertinent questions to my panelists before I let them go. And I'm going to focus on 3 areas, which I would like to, so you can wrap up with addressing these 3 areas for me as your final point. First one would be on human capacity development. We've heard about your projects. We've heard about what you have in the pipeline coming through in the next maybe 12 to 18 months, maybe 2 years. And we know that it will take a skilled workforce and sector to help you achieve those objectives. I want to know for each of you, your organization, your focus as far as HCD is concerned, not just internally, but even for these contractors that you want to provide these professional services. I would like to hear your view on that. That's one. Second would be from a gender focus. I can't sit here and not speak about gender. It's an opportunity. NCDMB has done a fantastic job. They have made available about $50 million funding available to women-owned businesses in the industry to be able to take advantage of contracting opportunities that the oil and gas industry presents. But the problem, and if Nexim Bank was here, they'll tell you, is that very low uptake of that fund because the women don't have contracts. So in looking at these very wonderful opportunities that you have spoken about today, I want to know for each of your organizations how intentional and deliberate you will be about increased participation of women-led companies or women-owned companies, not just from an employability standpoint, but also from a contracting standpoint. How intentional are you going to be? And maybe make a few commitments that we can hold you to. And then lastly, I'd like to speak about enablers. So I'm sure that there must be some factors. We have very critical personnel in the room. We have some regulators in the room who will be eager to know how can they contribute to your success so that when we show up here in 2 years, we can say that some of those projects that you spoke about today have either been completed and there are new ones now in the pipeline. So I will start with Mr. Osa, and this is just a wrap-up for you, and then we can bow out. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Very interesting questions and very pertinent. So in terms of human capacity development generally, I think the way we approached our operations was first to go with highly experienced people as we took over. If we look at it today, my organization, the average age of my workforce is quite high. And so we are going into a phase now where we'll start bringing in the next generation of talent that will be with the company for much longer. So we'll do a combination of mid-career hires and junior, let me call it graduates, to train to be with the company for longer. So we're going into that phase now, and that will define a path for development. And we are working out schemes of career development plans, training, and all of that will be required. And we have a rich crop of very experienced people, 20, 30 years experience, that are going to train them. And because we are very active operationally, we have the activity base to train them. So in 2021, when we increased our production, doubled our production in 3 months, we carried out maybe 40, 50 well interventions in 3 months. And over the next 2 years, I would expect that we'll be entering about 80 wells, either rigless or rigged, for workovers. So that's the kind of activity that's needed to train the next generation of people, particularly from the subsurface side. When we talk about, and with that will also come the services
the training of the service people that will come through. If I just pause here, so a lot of us, my age or older, that are in the industry today, what we benefited from was training that came not in the classroom, but from actually getting things done. So when I was a young engineer in Shell, I started out, Shell had about 20 rigs. Yeah, and with that, which is a KPI of their kind of activity in the industry, with that activity was the opportunity to learn. All of that has dwindled now, and I think as indigenous companies, as we step forward, we need to increase the activity base because it's from those activities that people learn, both those in the operating companies and those in the service sector. Then in terms of contracting, being intentional about contracting to women-led companies, I'll raise my hands and say we have not been intentional about it. We have been intentional about females. I mean, if I take my leadership team, my top management, 40% are women, but that's in-house. Noted. I will take away this one about being intentional about female-led companies for contracting.
Female-owned.
I'll take that away.
Is there a commitment there, sir?
Let me take it away and understand what it means. Yeah, I think that's, and enablers, for me, it's just one enabler. I mean, it's just for my oil to get to the terminal. That's really the enabler I need. And because I didn't produce and I lost revenue for 1 year out of that, and my company was almost out of business. So for as long as I can get my oil, my product to market, let me use that word, then I'm in business, then I can invest more, then I can grow. That challenge we had last year took us out a plan of 2 years. We had intended to ramp up our production to 100,000 by 2025, but that 1 year gap has set us back by 2 years. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. If you don't mind, I would like to respond to some of the questions raised. Our company, we so much believe in Nigerians, and the leadership of our company actually believe in the youth. And it will interest you to know that the people that occupy the top management next to the director in the companies are in their 30s and their 40s. Trust me. In fact, most of the time, we actually believe in taking young graduates and making sure we train them. In terms of catering, the current catering service in our field is by the community. Community ever since, till date, and they are making millions of dollars. Also, when we came in, there was a civil contractor from the community, and we said we know that they have less experience, and majority of people that come to the company when we joined from Shell, from Total, from Expro, so we came with a lot of experience, and we rally around them, give them support. That today, on the project I mentioned, the community contractor, his contract is worth billions of naira, tens of billions of naira. Just another way to give back to the community. Also, our company, every year, everybody goes on local and international trainings. On this project alone, we are planning to send more than 30 operation staff abroad during training of staff for the pumps, the compressors, and the generators, which we are buying abroad. This is what we'll do. Deliberately, our company employ community, as in the tender is only for the community people. We are about commissioning our LPG extraction plant again. That's the first plant in 50 years, modular, 12 million square, very small. And more than 30...
Sorry, please wrap up.
So more than 30 people, we are taking like 70 people, more than 30 are from the community. So these are ways by which we want to train and give back to the community. So in terms of enabling, business enabler, I think one of the challenges we have is getting permits. Ever since NBR, there's a separation in DPR, we have experienced a lot of slow, as in now there's a particular as of we couldn't hold, and we've written letter for more than 8 weeks. This can delay projects. So I think the regulator needs to rise up to that occasion.
Thank you. Thank you. I think he's listening. He's taking down notes. I see him very active on his phone. I'm sure that he's taking notes of what you're saying. But you didn't speak on the gender participation.
Oh, yes. Our company, we believe so much. We are a company that believe in the sustainable development goal, equal opportunity, reducing inequality. Top positions in our company, this company secretary is a female. More than 30% of the staff are female. So this is, you can fact check us. And we are still trying to make sure we bring in a lot of female into the company. Also, in terms of contracting, we are willing to give any competent female contractor a chance, anytime.
Women in Energy will contact you. Thank you very much. Mr. John, please.
Yes, talking about capacity building, I'd like to address it in two fronts. The first one, internal capacity building for staff. First CMP, on a 2-yearly basis, we have a graduate recruitment program, which brings in graduates into the company after some competitive exercise anyway. But even in that, to select the final successful candidates, we still juggle things such that there is a reflection of federal character in a sense, not just because, you could have the best candidates coming from just a region. We try to shift things around, and deliberately we look out for Niger Delta people as well, regardless of, if they did well enough. So people come into that program, and consciously they are developed. Within 2 years, they do phenomenal things. Things that a staff who has done perhaps 5-6 years in the IOC would not have touched. Somebody with 2 years experience in first CMP can boast of having attained that level of experience and capability, because we are conscious about it. I didn't go into the gas aspect of our business because of time. We have a gas division now. There is one of the platforms we are going to use for the gas drilling. A fresh graduate who has been with us for just about 18 months is designing that platform and is doing the feed in-house. So there is that, and there's also a program for even experienced staff. Every year, at the end of the year, with the appraiser comes the individual development plan. So your IDP gets reviewed, it gets fed into the overall training plan for the following year, and we implement it to the letter. So that way, everybody is developing. Now, the second aspect of capacity development is for vendors, like Osa talked about. We are conscious of capacity constraints, and this shows up with a number of indigenous contractors. And what do? We go to any extent to support the indigenous contractor to deliver. We dive into the ditch with them. Things we would not do with an expatriate company, we do with indigenous staff, including prioritizing payment, giving them support, even in technical delivery, we do that. Yeah? If you see us complain about an indigenous contractor, then it's too bad. That is what I would say concerning the way we support the development of indigenous contractors. Talking about gender balance, we are not there yet, but like everybody has said, it's a desire of the organization, and we are working at it. Let me give you examples. Today, you can walk into the First CMP building, our office in Ikoyi. You see a new look First CMP. The contractor who is doing that is a woman. The office facility management contractor is a woman. So where there is opportunity, we make those opportunities available, and we are conscious to support the women folk. But are we there yet? I think that's where I would take your advocacy and I will pass that message back to my own leaders. So it's well noted. I think there's a third point.
Enablers.
Sorry?
Enablers.
Oh, enablers, in every sense, actually, we try to create enabling situation across the board. Across the board. We support conferences, we support every activity that helps to promote the industry, and we expose our staff, and we don't really discriminate amongst our staff. We try to make the opportunities go around, and whatever it is that we need to do to advance the business and to support society, we do. If you want to check, you can check on our website. Our mission is actually to ensure that to work towards the well-being of Nigerians. And that is what we do in everything that we do. It's about how do we have a better country, how do we have better people, resourceful people, and all of that.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. So, Mr. Boma Brown, you have the final word.
Thank you. I think, let me not repeat the previous speakers. Most of us, we share the same DNA. So most of the programs that they have are similar. I think us and Adamu, we share same. And our organizations, most of the promoters of our organizations have same DNA. And so those programs are there. But I think what I will add more, I think they also have it, is the affirmative action. When you talk about enablers, affirmative action. For efficient, as first hydrocarbon, the leadership have targets, to ensure that diversity and inclusiveness, and then during NDR appraisal, we look at that to see that positive actions are really done. You set your target and you tell your leadership, look, you're not there yet, and how do you plan to close those gaps? Those are key actions that we take. In terms of contracting, especially the one you talked about, affirmative action in terms of contractors, lady contractors, I think that's something that we have not really focused on, based on the fact that we look at it that, supply chain will manage it. But I take your feedback seriously. We don't discriminate against them, but I think that word, affirmative action, where we take positive action to see that the numbers, how do they play back to us, even if we have a process in place, that we need to take back and see that we build that into our own mechanism to improve diversity and inclusiveness. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boma. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I bring my panel session to an end. I would like to thank my distinguished guests for their enlightenment and all the commitments that they've made. We'll definitely follow up with you, and we wish you all the best with your projects and see fruition. And I'll hand back to Ms. Tari. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention.
Thank you very much.